If Harry Potter took place in the United States, what parts of the story would be different? Harry wouldn't even be called Harry. That's too British. Probably be like Hank Rogers. I sell magic and magic accessories. Hagrid would be the football coach and constantly be telling kids they're in need of a serious attitude adjustment. I may play Quidditch, but I'll never sign this. You know what, coach? I gotta get going. Me and my loser friends. You know, we gotta get Weird Sisters tickets. Top priority of the summer. He would be going after something called a Sorcerer's Stone, because nobody knows what the Philosopher's Stone is. Oh, wait. Hey, least we had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. The Brits got Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles because ninjas were too violent. I'm English and have never heard of Hero Turtles, only Ninja Hairs. Right. It was Hero at the time as the BBFC head-heighted martial arts stuff. It's relaxed now though. The recent films were all ninja. Edit by at the time I mean the 90s at the height of its popularity. Obviously if you are a youth then you'll only know it as ninja. Weirdly, I was a fan as a kid in the 90s in Northern Ireland and knew them as ninjas. When I saw a Hero Turtlist shirt a few years ago I was baffled and looked into it to see if I misremembered. Suddenly I'm told it was always that way here, but I have distinct memories that disagree. They'd have a new sport they call Quidditch, but is nothing like what the rest of the world know as Quidditch. If I remember correctly from the books, the most popular wizard sport in America is called Quadpert, which has rules loosely similar to Quidditch, but involves explosions. Sounds better already. No a-hole here. After each explosion, which happens every play, they take a 30-minute timeout for commercials. Good. I can get something to eat. Explosions make me hungry. Instead of owls they would use bald eagles, and they'd use magic to make them sound like red-tailed hawks. Sorting hat, well if you're sure. Better be. Costco. Cheers from House Costco table. Look up Key and Peele American Wizard School skit. 1 out of 5 girls in this school is pregnant with a demon baby. The babies are evil, but the mothers, they're just great kids. Here is a wand with a silencer on it. Why? I ask again, why? More than likely the train station would be a Greyhound bus stop, and instead of running through a magic pillar you'd have to fight off an army of 2 AM crackheads to get into the custodian's closet. Came here to say that platform 934 would be at New York City Port Authority, and that somebody walking around talking to themselves would see Harry go through the wall, try it himself, and discover that he's not just a winnow, he's a magical winnow. Yo Harry, you're a drunk. Deadass. Given that a wizard probably dies to a shotgun, Voldemort's reign is hilariously brief. Even in the original books this always baffled me. Just set up a sniper like 1,000 foot away and get someone to distract Voldemort for like 5 minutes. Shouting spells is great, except it gives him the chance to block it. By the time you hear a gunshot it's already too late. Actually just every instance in the books where Muggle technology would have been way easier than magic is just silly to me. I mean, in fairness, it's just not that kind of story. There's no real reason why wizards would need to use quills instead of a ballpoint pen. But it fits the theme. Any justifications just kind of get bolted on. But I would happily read a Harry Potter that was unabashedly Americanized in translation. I'd love for the Muggle kids to show up with ballpoint pens and spiral notebooks. My parents were buying my school supplies from the dollar store when I was a kid. No way a bunch of modern Muggle parents are gonna tolerate expensive quills and rolls of parchment. Then the wizard kids realize, hey, ballpoint pens beats the crap out of quills and a trapper keeper actually keeps my stuff in place, and that's how Muggle stuff leaks into the wizard world, through the usefulness of office supplies. The American flag would be shown frequently. Edit grammar. And the winner of the House Cuppies, Gryffindor America, proceeds to show American flags as patriotic music plays. Someone drives around in a pickup truck. I think there can't be just one school in the USA, so schools would be recruiting. Schools would prioritize some divination to choose the best students and send letters appropriately. You don't want random wizardy people wandering about, so the school probably has to send one to everyone in their area. There wouldn't really be conflict between houses in the school, as only some schools use the house system, but more conflict between the schools. I'd expect those schools to trace their magic and traditions back to their colonists. There would be some first American schools, perhaps out in the Pacific Northwest, a French school around New Orleans, a Spanish-Mexican school around Santa Fe and a Painted Desert, a Chinese school in the San Francisco area, an English school around New York, and something around Chicago. Children from Hawaii could go to one of the mainland schools, or are often offered a place at Mohotakoro. There wouldn't be enough of them to really move away from the boarding school approach, and you don't really want too much study or practice outside the protective bounds of the school. There would be a test at the end of every year, and a much longer Quidditch season. Though it may or may not really look like the Quidditch we know. There's a Parker King style high ropes obstacle ultimate frisbee game. To get there your parents could drive you, or they'd send a bus to a plane or train. Wizards tend to hold on to things longer, and the trains were probably set up with them in mind. Why pay to switch to planes when the train works just fine? Basically gonna be magic school bus. The dining hall would be a food court and there would be vending machines scattered around the campus. Harry probably wouldn't have to go back to the Dursleys in the summer, since there'd probably be wizard summer camps of some sort. The political commentary on surrounding characters like Umbridge and Fudge would be different, since they are largely inspired by British political douchery from the 2000s and earlier, which is a bit different to US political douchery. There'd probably be some kind of cheerleading group for Quidditch. Instead of wizard chess they have enchanted beer pong cups that spew fire, hands that appear from the lid, jets of butterbeer that shoot up like fountain or to block the ball from going in. Also they'll probably have magical lockers around the hallway with charms to provide what you need, like a smaller room of requirement or something. The Death Eaters are just emo kids with AK-47s. Why would you want a wand that can only avada cadaver 47 times? The last 5 books would just be about Harry trying to pay off the bills from that time he had to have his bones regrown. Harry Potter and the deathly medical bills. Harry Potter and the crippling debt. American flags would be everywhere, and the Weirlies would be rednecks. There would be one scene dedicated in each movie to the school doing disaster drills. Any spells to heal Hogwarts students would be charged to their parents. Man, that school would be shut down in no time with all the lawsuits. The fights have more explosions. Ron says duck, and most importantly Harry was killed by Voldemort, who used an AK-47 instead of a stick. Harry drops out of Hogwarts after his first year. Medical bills from the Sorcerer's Stone incident have used up his entire family fortune, and he now is unable to pay tuition without taking out a massive loan. He moves back in with the Dursleys and has entrepreneur listed as his occupation on LinkedIn. Diagon Alley would probably just be a strip mall. Neville Longbottom snaps, brings an R15 to class, and starts gunning down House Slytherin, starting with Draco Malfoy. It would be all over in book 1 because a group of students did a mass avada kedavra on a school day. Hogwarts wouldn't be a boarding school. Harry wouldn't get his year-long breaks from his abusive family. He'd come to class with a distant, uninterested gaze on his face, and poorly kept robes. His teachers would notice, of course, but this is America, so they'd have 40 or more kids per class, and no time or ability to take a special interest in just Harry. People would notice the sadness, they'd notice the uncleanness and wild hair, they'd notice the bruises, and that Harry's glasses are constantly breaking. But this is America. Nobody would want to say anything. The other boys might call Harry a pussy or a homo. Naturally, girls would talk about what a creepy mess he was. The school nurse would probably become Harry's most nourishing and rewarding relationship. Do you need to talk? Edit, how did this get me my first gold? Nice of you to ask, but I'm happily married in my 30s now. School was a bit of a rough time for me, which was part of why Harry Potter had such appeal. I used to daydream about living away from home for 10 months at a time, able to focus on my studies, my friends, my interests and hobbies. It sounded amazing. Somehow, by any random turn of events, The US president played by Billy Bob Thornton would be in danger and Harry will spend 8 films trying to save him from communists, radical religious groups from a made-up country ending in Stan, hypocrite gun control people carrying guns and Russians Iranians. Instead of the Book of Monsters it would be a book of different gangs, where to find them, what colors to wear, and what signs they flash. More guns. A lot more guns. Okay, this has been driving me crazy for 7 movies now, and I know you're going to roll your eyes, but hear me out. Harry Potter should have carried a 1911. Here's why. Think about how quickly the entire WWWII Wizarding World War III would have ended if all of the good guys had simply armed up with good old American hot lead, Basilisk. Let's see how tough it is when you shoot it with a .470 Nitro Express. Worried about its Medusa gaze? Wear night vision goggles. The image is light amplified and are transmitted to your eyes. You aren't looking at it, you're looking at a picture of it. Imagine how epic the first movie would be if Harry had put a breaching charge on the bathroom wall, flashbanged the hole, and then went in wearing NVGs and a Kevlar weave stab vest, carrying a sparse 12. And have you noticed that only Europe seems to have a problem with Death Eaters? Maybe it's because Americans have spent the last 200 years shooting deer, playing GTA Vice City, and keeping an eye out for black helicopters over their compounds. Meanwhile, Brits have been cutting their steaks with spoons. Remember, gun control means that Voldemort wins. God made wizards and God made muggles, but Samuel Colt made them equal. Now I know what you're going to say, but a wizard could just disarm someone with a gun. Yeah. Well, they can also disarm someone with a wand, as they do many times throughout the book's movies. But which is faster, saying a spell or pulling a trigger? Avada Kedavra. Meet Aftermath Kalashnikova. Imagine Harry out in the woods, wearing his invisibility cloak, carrying a .50 BMG Barrett, turning Death Eaters into pink mist, scratching a lightning bolt into his rifle stock for each kill. I don't think Madame Pomfrey has any spells that can scrape your brains off of the trees and put you back together after something like that. Voldemort's wand may be 13.5 inches with a phoenix feather core, but Harry's would be 0.50 inches with a tungsten core. Let's see Voldy waves at 3000 feet per second. Better hope you have some essence of Dittany for that sucking chest wound. I can see it now. Voldemort roaring with evil laughter and boasting to Harry that he can't be killed since he is protected by 7 Horcruxes, only to have Harry give a crooked grin, flick his cigarette butt away, and deliver what would easily be the best one-liner in the entire series. Well, then I guess it's a good thing my 1911 holds 7 plus 1. And that is why Harry Potter should have carried a 1911. There will be magic detectors at the entrance of the school, so kids cannot bring in dangerous magic items or muggle electronics. One of said dangerous items is their own wands, since they can be used to do any kind of lethal spell if the student chose to. So instead of spell classes with practical experience using their wands, they just use fake plastic wands to practice spells, and the professor marks them based on how they flicked and waved in class, as well as the spell pronunciation. Potions class has Professor Heisenberg. Some of the lab supplies have been missing each year, and he keeps blaming the losers on the domestic elves that help inside the school. He supposedly has a brother-in-law that works as an aura. There is also a rumor that an older Hufflepuff kid is selling smarten up potions on the side for when the exams roll around, which are pretty hard to do for a student, let alone a Hufflepuff. The current defense against the dark arts teacher is Mark Hamill. Besides counter spells and basic fencing lessons, he has redoubtable experience fighting the dark side. From time to time he lets out a chilling clown lort when teaching his classes if some student makes a good joke. But it's nothing to worry about. Anything related to Quidditch training and broom flight is handled by Professor Vin Diesel. He teaches the kids how to drift correctly in their brooms, how to race trains and planes, how to customize and fix their brooms, and how to add a bit of nitro juice potion to their brooms for extra speed. Care of magical creatures is imparted by the groundskeeper, Dwayne Johnson. He has talent to befriend magical beasts and a very docile personality for his size. It is rumored he has giant blood in him. You better not cause any trouble at school. Especially for the headmaster, or the rock his given name by his giant mother might escort you out of the school grounds through the nearest window in the building. The Dursleys might been given a religious bent to further justify their fear of magic and to give some perspective on their overall unpleasant behavior, which plenty of American children could relate to. Only people with lots of gold could go to Hogwarts. They would take a BuzzFeed quiz instead of using the sorting hat. Hogwarts was located in the Scottish Highlands, if I remember correctly, so very out of the way. American Hogwarts would probably be in a remote part of America, like Wyoming. American Diagon Alley would be located in New York City. My guess would be somewhere in Midtown, where everyone's too distracted to notice people going into an invisible building that's the American equivalent of the Leaky Cauldron. 12 Grimmauld Place would also be a hidden brownstone in Brooklyn. The students still take trains, but it's Grand Central Station. If I remember correctly, there are fairy tales in the Muggle world that find their root in the WW. I'd imagine a lot of American authors were either wizards or had relatives who were, thus exposing them. For example, Stephen King is a wizard whose Muggle disguise is an author, using some of the stuff in his world for his stories. His book It is based on a boggart that King encountered in a sewer grate in Maine.